Well, welcome to another episode of The Minority Voice. I'm your host, Jeff Vega, and I have my 2A Patriot shirt on today. And for those of you who don't know what 2A, that's Second Amendment. We believe in our gun rights, and I believe them, and I know, Patrice, you do too, right?
Yes, I do.
And, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And folks, this is Patrice Johnson, and she gives us our weekly update on what's going on in Michigan, but also nationally too, when it comes to election integrity. And Patrice is are you the chair or president? Okay,
yes.
The chair of the Pure Integrity Michigan Elections, right?
Yeah, there's a 4 in there. Pure Integrity for Michigan Elections.
Okay.
But our website doesn't have the 4 in it, so
Okay.
it's confusing.
So yeah, speaking of that, so if you want to get updated on what's going on in Lansing on the elections and things like that, definitely go to her website. So how about if we start off, I know we've been touching these last couple weeks on the Arizona audit. So
Yes.
why don't you kind of give an update, because I know you said you had somebody from Arizona come in and talk with you?
Well, they came to the rally.
Right,
There was
exactly,
a question.
yes.
Yeah, that was Election Integrity Force sponsored that.
Okay.
And that was Liz Harris,
Okay.
who was very instrumental in running the canvassing campaign that found 173,000 lost voters and 96,000 ghost voters, they call them.
So 193 lost voters.
1,000.
And then 90...
I think it's 173 lost voters and 196,000 ghost voters, or switched around. I'm not sure about that.
So what's a lost voter?
Well, a lost voter, which is very interesting, is when they knocked on the door, they said, "Did you vote?" And they said, "Yes, I voted." And they said, "Well, did you vote in person or by mail?" And they said, "Well, we voted in person." Okay. But the records show they only voted it by mail.
Oh, okay.
So it's highly suspect. What happened to their real vote?
Okay. So just so you know, folks, what a group of people decided to do is to take the election results, the people that voted, and they went canvassing door to door, knocked on their door, and said, "Hey, did you vote this past election?" "Yes, you did." "Okay," or "No, you didn't," whatever the answer is. And they said, "Yes. Can we find out how you voted? Did you absentee or go in person?" And then they matched that up with how they voted.
How
correct?
they voted, right.
So,
that was all, on record. So
basically, some people said they voted absentee, but yet it showed them in person, or vice versa, correct?
Right. It didn't show how they actually voted. It showed whether they voted by mail or in person, but
Exactly.
not the ballot. Exactly.
Exactly. Right. You didn't know who they voted for, but
right.
So 193 or 73,000, and the other one was ghost.
Yeah, the ghost voters are when they checked out those people. They lived in other states, or they were dead, or they were ineligible to vote, but they voted.
Also, hey Dave. What law firm hired us or hired you to go out and film vacant houses and vacant lots, or I should abandoned houses, vacant lots?
The Thomas More Society?
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
okay. They do very good work.
Yeah. So we were contracted to go around the west side of Detroit and take photos of vacant lots and get the addresses and burned out houses. And if I'm not mistaken, some of those vacant lots had registered voters, and burned out houses had registered voters.
That's why they gave you that address to go film, probably.
Yeah, well, we found them for them.
Oh, good.
And they matched them up with
The thing about Detroit is a lot of those homes didn't even exist. Stuff didn't even match up. So whatever they can do all types of stuff in cities like that, because with some of the houses they showed them, they're like, we can't even find that. The address doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
So
the house is gone.
Because some of them are burned or half there, so they can do whatever they want. Who knows?
So now,
well, may I just add to that?
Yeah,
just
please.
to bring it home even more directly. In Lansing, we have a lady that has gone and checked the voting records in Lansing, East Lansing. And you know how there's the college turnover every year, those college kids. Right. She found people that had been registered as voters in some of these houses what am I thinking? What's the word for it?
Just-
Sorority or
Yeah,
fraternity houses. They'd been registered and is living there, for 30, 40 years, and which is obviously they're not there. But they had been 30 or 40 years
Some
ago.
in the Animal House,
No, I don't think so. But she found 26,000 votes like that, registered voters like that. Now she's in the process of checking to see whether they've actually voted or not.
26,000.
26,000. And that was just one person doing a check on some fraternity houses, and she checked LinkedIn to see if they'd graduated and if they had businesses off in Australia or whatever. And so she eliminated them because she knew they didn't live at these addresses.
Now,
26,000.
Now you see, and here's the trouble with stuff like that, findings like that. Now, you'll get these findings, and then you will file a suit, and the judge will say, well, there's no standing. And yet it's like, and that's the whole problem. You with all those affidavits that were signed, no judge recognized any of those affidavits to investigate, and as a result, all the cases was dropped.
Yes. Yes, but
Okay.
there's something wrong with that.
Oh, I agree.
Because there are Michigan statutes that we've looked up.
Okay.
And they basically 168.940. Anything that's 168 is an election law.
Okay.
And 940 says basically prosecuting attorneys. It is hereby made the duty of every prosecuting attorney, whenever he shall receive credible information that any such offense has been committed, to cause the same to be prosecuted. That's on the prosecutor side. It also says, in 941 says, peace officers, it is the duty of the police, sheriff, or other peace officer present and having knowledge of any violation of any provisions of this act, which is an election act, to forthwith institute criminal proceedings for the punishment of such offender. It's the law, and it's not being enforced.
And that's the problem.
That is the problem.
They won't enforce it. So by them not enforcing it, and then the judge, when a suit is filed, throws it out because there's no standing, then they get away with saying, well, there's no evidence been found. Well, it's like, because you haven't looked at it. You haven't
Right. The
looked
judge didn't
at
take
it.
the case.
Right.
Yeah.
You haven't pursued the case to do an investigation. But anyway, so getting back to this, so you've put together a summary and a report that you turned into the House and the Senate.
Well, we haven't met with Representative Bolin, who chairs the elections committee
And
in
she's
the House.
Right.
But we have met with Senator Ruth Johnson, and just this week, yesterday,
Okay.
we presented it to her.
All right.
And it was a good meeting. We spent 1 hour with her, and then 2 additional hours with her chief of staff, and he was
Okay.
taking a lot of notes.
And
so we're very encouraged.
Any call to action on her part, what she's going to do? Well,
Actually, Senator Johnson, I don't know if most people know this, but after the 2020 election, she requested subpoena power, and she itemized all the things she saw wrong with the election and asked for subpoena power, and it was denied.
Who denied her?
I asked her that question, and she was a little, she was uncomfortable pointing a finger at any particular person. But the Republicans are in charge. So I would suspect...
Ruth, now's the time to put your big boy pants on.
Well, I think she's trying to get things done. This was so I don't know. It's very so she's requested again because the Secretary of State, as you know, has in 2020 implemented signature verification rules that basically said anything goes. Right. And after the election, the courts found that she was wrong. She had no right to do that. She wasn't following statute. She didn't have the approval of the Rules Committee. So now she's submitted those same verbatim rules to the Rules Committee.
And see, this is what pisses me off. I'm going to get pissed off. I'm going to get mad here. You see, we had a governor who violated our Constitution twice.
Absolutely.
Now the Attorney General is violating the law. Hey, House, Senate, why aren't you enacting impeachment? Yeah, I know it will go nowhere because you don't have the votes, but you have to do something. And it ticks me off. We don't do nothing, and I'm going to digress here and go a different direction. But have you followed the national news? The January 6th commission, this kangaroo court that Pelosi put up, they're going after Steve Bannon.
Right.
You know? And you know what? They know how to stick it to the righteous. Hello, righteous so-called Republicans. Let's flip the script and stick it to them. I digress. Please go on with some level-headed thinking here. So you reached out to her. You've got a report. What's the next phase?
Well, just to add on to what you're thinking, I think that we have traditionally, in this country, we have had cooperation between the Secretary of State and the Attorney General and the legislature. I mean, there's always a little bit of friction, but all have been working for the betterment of the nation. We currently have a situation where that's very questionable, because the statutes are in direct violation. And our current Secretary of State has a law degree. She's surrounded by lawyers. She knows she's in violation of statutes, but she for some reason has figured out that she can get away with it, or that it's worth it for the short term. But I think now our legislature is thinking, wow, this is a different world that we're in right now. They've never been in this situation where they were dealing with somebody that wasn't perhaps acting in good faith.
You know what? The other side has never acted in good faith. I'm sorry. I am tired. I am done. I am spent with our side. Throw all the bastards out. Excuse me. That's it. You know what? I'm done with them, man. We're okay. I digress. Sorry.
David's going to be editing like crazy on this.
So I am so glad you're here, because if I had somebody a little bit more radical, this thing would blow up.
Yeah, the roof would blow up.
So let's go back. So now what's your guys' pertaining to the auditing and all that? What's your guys' objective here next? What's your next step you see?
Well, we're going to keep pushing on this because I mean, in an ideal world, we would get an audit. Right. But we still need to simultaneously be moving along the lines of what the Arizona audit did uncover, because that was not a certifiable election. Right. Anybody that listened to the hearings could see that there was a lot of, it was so poorly run that it should not have been certified. And Michigan is not immune to the same problems.
Yep. And actually, one of our board of canvassers, not mentioning any name, Monica Palmer, but she got removed as one of the Wayne County's board of canvassers, and so yeah, she got removed, and they put somebody else. I don't know who they put in, but anyways, so okay, so let's move into what's happening in Lansing now, because I know you guys are proactive in bills, and you're there. So what's happened this past week?
Well, one interesting bill today had a hearing.
Okay.
And that was Senator Ruth Johnson's Committee on Elections.
Okay.
It's SB 308. But basically, what it says is that the election laws for verifying signatures needed to be tightened up, because they were there were holes in them that the Secretary of State was walking through. So a little bit of background on that. That's when Secretary Benson changed the laws in the last election. She's trying to get them through now. And
through a policy procedure or something like that.
Joint Commission on Administration and Regulations.
Administrative move, right?
Yeah, administrative move. So this statute would basically force her to comply with a very specific law. And it was interesting because the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, Adam Reams, was testifying that they really didn't need these extra rules. They didn't need to be confined. It was unusual. And actually,
blah, 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 blah.
Senator McBroom said, this is standard. The legislature sets the parameters. The Secretary of State is supposed to follow them. So there's nothing unusual about these. But what they were trying to do, what Secretary of State is proposing, is that any signature should be considered valid if it has one redeeming quality. Now, I don't know if you call that one redeeming quality if they write an A with an upright vertical line in it.
How about if they just turned it in? Is that redeeming? The fact that they turned it in? Okay, yeah,
So
I remember hearing that.
It's
That's
totally unbounded, basically.
Yeah,
and what they
sure.
saw in comparison in Arizona, the cyber, what are this? Not cyber ninjas. It's not cyber ninjas.
That's what we call them.
Yeah. Anyway, they basically recommended that you use a 27-point system
Sure.
that's a level 3 authentication process on signatures. And that what had happened in Arizona is they start off trying to do it, they start off doing a good job, but they're under pressure, and as the process goes on,
they get lax.
It gets more and more lax until finally they were accepting zero
Anything.
signatures. And what Secretary Benson is proposing would put the clerks in such a position that they could not possibly say this needs to be thrown out, because you had to basically assume they were valid, and if it was shaky or if it looked hurried, you had to make the assumption that the person that signed their name was an elderly
Could have been
person.
drunk too when they filled it out.
Yeah, so you're supposed to come up with an excuse for why that signature didn't match.
Okay.
So it basically was opening the door to anything
Okay, so
goes.
they're gonna bring that out.
Hopefully,
Okay,
yes.
okay,
Yes,
so,
I see. So that's a good bill. That's a
now,
good bill.
What did you testified this week, right?
Yes,
So-
this morning.
so you-
Well,
well,
2 o'clock today, yeah.
Along with on this issue here? Did
Yes.
you- okay, good. Anybody else testify?
Well, yes.
Okay.
I left before everybody else finished, but until I testified, everybody was basically in opposition to this bill
Okay.
because they
No, I
wanted.
meant anybody from your team. I'm gonna call
on
it your
this
team.
today. Oh,
yeah.
no, I was the
this
only one
week.
today on this one.
What
on this one.
about the rest? Of the,
Yesterday we had 3 Pine supporters testify at the House, a House
and
hearing.
folks, let me tell you this. And this is why I ask her, because I want you to know that if you want your voice to be heard, there is a platform, and this group right here will help you get, I don't know what, trained, not even trained maybe, but just engage in it so your voice can be heard.
And I cannot emphasize the importance of physical presence in those hearings.
Yes.
Stepping up to the microphone, it's nerve-wracking, but it's so important because typically what those representatives hear from is they hear from the people that are extreme leftists, and they're under constant pressure. And to have somebody that come in with common sense and say, you basically have to stick with the statute. Here's the statute, and it says you need to verify the signature that it's a real person or a real citizen of the United States.
So what other pieces of legislation does your team testify at?
Well,
And who were they? Let's give them some kudos.
oh, sure.
Who?
Kathy McClinchy
Okay. And
testified.
where's she out of?
She's
What
out
city?
of Munith, Michigan.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And then Alex Wedden
Okay.
out of Chelsea.
Chelsea, okay.
And then Kristen Smith out of, I think she lives in Dexter.
Okay.
Dexter.
Kudos
Washtenaw
to
County.
all three
Washtenaw
of
County.
you for stepping up to
That's
the plate.
right. They did a great job, by the way.
Okay.
They did a
And
great
what
job.
issues were they dealing with?
They were dealing with Representative Calley introduced a bill basically that would prohibit the clerk from sending an absentee ballot to someone unless they requested it, which is a good bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. We suggested that they limit it to the township or village clerk because we like to see things down at the very
Sure.
grassroots level, whereas it's currently in the bill that a county clerk could send out absentee ballots, but they should only be sent to people who request them.
Sure. And
Yeah.
that makes sense. If
Yeah,
you want
that's a
it,
good
just
bill.
ask for it.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's always been.
Sure.
Until, Secretary of State went a little crazy with that. And then we also had a person testify on SB 302, and that for Senator Lasada
Okay.
introduced that. And that's to modify voter registration application to include a claim that they live in one residence, in Michigan. And they're
Yeah.
going to vote one time.
Sure.
Yeah, which is, not too absurd at all. So we added to that. We thought you should add, if you're going to do that, you should add that you have a birth certificate and that you are a citizen, and that there should be repercussions for perjury.
Sure.
So we
agree
recommend those things.
100% with that.
Yep.
And these are just common sense, but I know the left will look at it as extreme. And
that's how they're painting it. But
right.
nobody, 80% of the public realizes these are realistic expectations. That people want voter ID, and that's 80% of the public. 53% of Democrats feel that way.
Sure.
So that's, I mean.
And the other 47 they want to cheat to win. But
well, they might be mainstream media, or they might
exactly.
have ulterior motives for. And the third bill was to provide requirements for the challengers, which is a really good one. This was Representative DeMoose's.
Okay.
And that basically asked that the challengers get trained, which is fair, and then when they come into participate in an election, that they hand their papers showing that they've been trained to the clerk. The clerk gives them a badge just saying they're a challenger.
Okay.
But not their name and not their party.
Okay.
So they're not going to be harassed. But they will have standing because people will see their badge. They're a challenger that's trained to be there. So I think that's a fantastic bill.
But what we need for honest elections, we actually need poll workers.
Yes.
That are
Need
counting
poll
the votes
inspectors.
and look at inspectors, yes. So I did hear, we were talking before a little bit, there was a potential hearing that they tabled because of the cannabis cartel, I'll call them, or they're trying to take care of the care workers and their rights away and give it to big business. So what happened there?
Well, the hearing was canceled,
Okay.
or it wasn't scheduled. I'm not sure, but it never happened. Okay. So that's a good sign because that bill, it really has nothing to do with marijuana.
Right.
It has to do with a giant lobbyist cartel having exponential influence over Lansing.
So you have to wonder why it got canceled, and I think because of the backlash backlash, but also hearing from constituents. And I want to give a kudos out to Adam D'Angeli.
Yes,
his group.
Yes, he really
Rescue
pursued
Michigan.
this.
Folks, you need to go to their website, rescuemichigan.com. Is that correct?
I think it is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they do a lot of pushback along with Patrice's group, and they are more widely broader in their spectrum of what's going on in Lansing. But when we step out and we make our voices heard, things happen, things get stopped.
Yes, yeah,
So,
it makes a big difference. And another bill that Adam was very involved with by way of Representative John Riley is the First Amendment bill.
Okay.
That did have a hearing. Actually, the case is so bizarre. I questioned, I thought I'd better research this a little bit more because it sounds too bizarre. But he's a kid in college. He spends a summer working. He gets enough money. He buys himself an AR-15, and he's modeling it for his Snapchat.
You know what? How about we do this?
Okay.
Our next week, when I bring you back, let's talk about that one.
Okay,
We
because
need to-
that's a very important bill.
Folks, that is huge. And I'll wear this shirt
there
next
we go.
week because
There we
I'm going
go.
to tell you, it's going to piss you off. And I'm just getting really upset. So I think we better call it a day.
Yeah, this
okay?
is you're wound a little tight tonight.
I don't know if
That's
this shirt made me do it, right? But anyways, folks, it's been good. It's been real. And until next time, Joshua 24:15.